Nothing.
I don't remember when I met you.
I don't remember.
What does that say? When did I meet? It probably was, well, I feel like I knew of you from like General Hospital.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
like, so I think.
Oh, I think I do remember, actually.
Do you?
Wasn't it at the Emmys? But you were still on B&B. I think we met at one of the CBS parties. I remember meeting you.
Maybe. Probably. That probably makes sense.
Yeah, but
I did talk to you at Gina's Going Away party when I was on B&B across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if I met you then, but
Yeah.
that was the first time I think I like.
At least we both don't remember meeting each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
One of us.
Yeah, we're very memorable. Clearly, we just showed up in each other's lives one
it just
day.
happened.
We were just there. I remember. I do a little bit. I remember. Yeah, we were at. It was when I got the water dumped on me. Those episodes.
Really?
We had scenes, yeah, because we were talking about Delia. I was with Adam and talking to you a little bit about Delia and why you didn't like Adam, because that was the first time I realized what had happened. I do remember that. He doesn't remember that either.
I don't remember that.
I'm very memorable. This is making me, my ego is just, on fire right now.
We have scenes after this too. They're going to feel way different.
Yeah. Looking forward to those.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You mad at me for something?
You asked me about last week, I think, when we were doing it. Be Max, I'm just playing the scene. Now it's going to be real.
Yeah. Little bit of backstory. I think we became fans of each other. I think it's fair to say. I watched Courtney work, and obviously you see it on camera, but then you kind of watch it, or you're a part of scenes every once in a while, and I could see how prepared she was, how kind of dedicated she was, how great the character was, and how much ownership she had of her character and the scenes that she was in. She felt very much like, she had her space, and I really appreciate that. Even though you're playing certain scenes, she always held her own space. And so we started talking about, it'd be fun to do something, and then certain things were kind of happening within the show and different characters, and then when the Adam and Sally stuff, the Adam and Chelsea stuff started to kind of happen, it was a really great way for us to learn more about each other, about how we work, about the characters, obviously, because there was many scenes before that we didn't really get along. I mean, Billy didn't have a lot of respect for Sally in the first couple years of working together, and I mean, I don't think you really trusted her. You spied on me, so there wasn't a lot of love there at all. But personally, I was a big fan. So then when it started to kind of happen where it could, these two characters could be spending more time together, whether it was just because of the relationship between Chelsea and Adam and, the fallout from all that, or to get to where we are today, I think we were both excited about the potential of just kind of, seeing what was there and just working together. We talk a lot about it, about the work, we run lines, we talk about what the relationship is, what we can bring and everything else. And I enjoy working with people that work similar to that, and not everybody does, and that's totally fine. It's great always, but when you do have that commonality and you can kind of get in the weeds a little bit, it always percolates it differently. And so that's what I was excited about.
Yeah.
Long answer, but yeah.
Yeah. He's making up for not remembering meeting me.
Yeah. I'm trying to make her feel really important. I'm not sure if it's coming across or not.
Good job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I echo everything that he says. I mean, I have really been a fan of his work for a really long time, and I was really excited when I found out we were going to be working together, and I kind of had that sense too. I think there were some scenes when we were going to potentially go surprise Chelsea and Adam, and it was during those scenes when we were really, I felt like right in the beginning of when we had scenes together, and I thought, oh wow, this could really be something cool. Like I'm excited to see where this goes, and hopefully, that's what they end up pushing toward, and it was. And so, I mean, I've loved it. And like he said, like I think we work really well together. We do like talking about the scenes. We like talking about the direction, you know, all the depth of like where we're coming from, where we're going, what we see out of it, you know, depending on if they write it or not, but like what we see, and we play that. And so yeah, it's been great. I echo what he said. There's so much. I think one thing I love is their genuine heart. I feel like both of them just are very honest and trustworthy people at the core. They may do things for, you know, their own pursuit of power or, you know, pain or whatever it is, but ultimately, I know we talk about this a lot, like, you know, Billy is a man of his word. He is, you know, of truth, and I feel like Sally is that way too. So I love that because they still have this rebellion within them. Like they both have a brokenness that I think that they're constantly seeking a love from somebody else to kind of heal that wound, but they do it through a truthful space, which I think sometimes, you know, can they both have a lot of passion and a lot of heart, and so I love seeing that together. And I'm excited to see, you know, as you evolve in a relationship, it expands, right? In the beginning it's like all lovey-dovey and it's good and it's fun and it's this, but like we're starting to find these like nuances of a little bit of like, you know, toying with each other or a little bit of like pressing each other's buttons, and I'm excited to see where that goes, because I think that will really expand what I believe makes them such a good pair, which is they're both very headstrong and they're very passionate and they're very in pursuit of the truth and what's right. And I think that it could be very, I don't know, very explosive in good and bad ways, and it could be fun. I don't know. I that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think I'll just add on to that. One of the things I really enjoy about them is that it feels like they allow themselves to be themselves as well. I don't feel like she's trying to change Billy or correct him or whatever. And I would say vice versa. I think they're big fans of who they are individually. I like that we're getting to a place where, you know, Billy can go to her and ask her opinion on something because he trusts her opinion, and he trusts that she's going to be honest with him even if it's not what Billy wants to hear. And that's really what he needs in his life. He's going to do what he thinks he needs to do no matter what, but he's going to take her, he's going to, you know, he wants to hear her opinion because I think he trusts her, and she's great for him in that kind of way. I also like how playful they can be at times, and how kind of, you know, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of sexy with each other they can be as well. They allow themselves to live in those worlds, which I think is really important for both characters. And I think that is ultimately, you know, what brings them together. It's kind of the spark of not knowing and the anticipation of that it could go so many ways, because they're both passionate people in, you know, whatever it is, business, love, life, everything, you know. So I just think there's a lot of potential. Yeah, there's you know, I think personally, I think we're similar in this way too. We're not ones that say like our characters wouldn't really do something. We don't really put guardrails on it. So I like that. I know she's that way, so we can zigzag and go wherever we need to go and find our way back or not. Whatever happens, happens. But you know, we're able to zigzag and you know, try and find the connections where we can find them, basically. But, yeah.
I also just want to say really quickly, like, I think our characters coming together, we came together in such a broken space. Like we, you know, we had moments with Adam, right, where we're both
vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think because of that, it took down a lot of the guard of us trying to be something that we were not. So we saw each other very early on at our most raw, at our, you know, most broken, explosive for sure. I mean, there was moments when I was like screaming at Adam and you were in his face, and to see that of somebody, you can't really unsee that. And so I think we both have that understanding that and so I think because of that, it gave us a really good launching point to say, okay, what's the opposite end of that? Like, where can we find that sexiness and the joy and the humor and and run with it and see what happens. I'm super serious.
Not true.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
It's like,
Not at all.
well, I said in a
I
way
like
that I
to
wasn't going to
expect.
offend you, but I was trying to.
It's
That's
fine.
not
I'm
true.
really awful. No, we both, if I could just like my
Please go
opinion,
ahead. Answer
if
for
I
me.
could speak, please. No, we both like to play pretend. You know, I think that's very apparent when we come together in our work, but we also have a depth in which we bring to the work from what I have experienced, and I think that allows us to have fun and have more freedom. Is what I was gonna say. Is like when we have it all together, that it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna not even throw it away, just kind of like use that toolbox.
Mhm.
And so when we come on set, you know, we run our lines and stuff. I mean, every day's different. Some days are like, okay, we gotta get on set, we gotta know it. Some days it's like we didn't get to
Yeah,
run it,
it
or
depends on.
yeah, it depends on the day. But all in
Depends on
all,
the day.
like I personally love being on set. It's like my home away from home. I love it, and I get that energy from you too. You really enjoy being there, and I think that makes a huge
Yeah.
difference, because then we enjoy the crew. You know, I mean, I love who we work with too. So it's just, it's for me, it's fun, but obviously we're doing, you know, serious work, but we're also, you know, playing pretend, and so kind of gotta have that.
Yeah, I think you got to take it serious enough to be prepared and do your job, but also not take yourself serious. And I think that's a good, that's a good balance. And I think we both strike that most days pretty well, I mean, but yeah, I think it depends on what's going on in the story too. Sometimes it needs a little bit of lightness and you try and carry that through a little bit. And then sometimes you're kind of in your own headspace because you got to stay there in order to do the job. So, but it's also respecting where the other person is as well, and being able to pick up social cues in that kind of way and everything else. But I mean, and this is not just because Courtney's here, but she's one of the most playful, sweet, kind, actresses you're ever gonna work with. So it's fun. You get excited to come to work because you know it's gonna be fun. And I can say that about almost everybody we work with. I mean, not to pump you up and then you deflate the tires, but
Yeah. Wow. Thanks.
it's no, but
No, nobody agree with you.
it's
I
true.
do.
It's we got a fantastic crew of people, but specifically Courtney is a very fun person to work with. So it's it makes the job even that much better.
Well, thank you. Wish I could say the same, but
I know, but you can't. So.
oh, he's great. He's super fun to work with, and I was like, I've been super excited from the day I found out that we were going to be working together. And like I said, I respect him and his work so much, and also him as a person. So it's been a blast. For me personally, I always look at it like you're learning, like in real life, you'd be learning somebody. You'd be learning their, their boundaries, their mannerisms, picking up on their cues, the underlying unspoken, like what that looks like. When you really know somebody, you can pick up on that stuff pretty quickly. But when you're getting to know someone, especially when we hadn't really worked together, I feel like I was getting to know him as well as getting to know Billy at the same time. And obviously they're different people. There's similarities, there's differences in what that looks like. And so I just personally kind of used it as this, just this like start of a journey, and kind of see where it takes us. Because I think that to act like somebody, I think it's more fun to discover as you're working with somebody, and that's kind of
there's a little bit of a natural evolution to it as well, just because our characters didn't spend a lot of time together either. So before that, so we were learning. There's you stick around long enough and you're around other castmates and everything, characters. It's not quite the same, but for us it was. The characters were new to each other and we were new to each other, so there was a natural kind of evolution there. But I mean, that's all part of the fun. It's all part of the discovery as well. And we do a lot as well. Our it happens quick, so you find yourself trying to use whatever you can sometimes, and sometimes it is the natural uncomfortable, or sometimes it is the natural kind of ease that you have, that you kind of rely on, or sometimes you have to do a little bit more homework, whatever you need to do, you just kind of, you figure it out. you know.
Mhm.
But I think the natural evolution of our characters helped us get to know each other personally, I would imagine too. Could be these scenes we have to shoot later on if we still get along after this.
It would be so fun. I have mine, but they haven't aired yet, so I don't think
Oh,
I
really?
can say. Yeah.
What could that be?
We went to.
Oh, yeah, those are fun. Those are good. Those
Yeah,
are fun.
They were fun, super playful. Those
yeah.
were fun.
I mean, some of my favorite stuff too is before we were a couple. Like, you know, I mean, when Billy came to Adam's place and barged his way in and exposed everything, and then she lost her stuff on Adam, and that was, I remember
Also
being
fun.
offset, just like, you know, hearing her go off, which was really fun. It's just,
I love the scenes when Adam forgot about the death of the
those
baby.
scenes were great too.
Those were some of
super
our
fun.
first like really vulnerable scenes together.
Yeah.
And I loved those.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. Back to your question, just the last one, I think too. When you can just sit there with someone being very vulnerable and you don't really feel like you have to speak or do anything, that's a really comforting thing to have as an actor. And I think we've had many moments like that where I don't really feel like I have to do anything. I just have to kind of be there, and that doesn't always happen, but I do feel that with these characters. I think that they can see each other in vulnerable ways that is super helpful, even personally as an actor. It's like you can just rely on that to not have to fill the scene up with a bunch of other stuff, you know. And so yeah, I appreciate that as well. But yeah, those were good scenes too. Yeah, you're pretty good.
Thanks. You too. I definitely think for receiving, Sally really likes words of affirmation, because I think just with her upbringing, like she didn't have a lot of people around her boosting her up and building her up. You know, her grams, yeah, and her sister here and there, but really no one else. So I think when she can hear how much somebody really cares about her, and then I would say acts of service, because to show, you know, to back that up, to show it is big for her. To have somebody show up for Sally is huge. A lot of people don't, you know. I mean, like when she was losing her baby, yeah, Adam was there, but like, you know, Nick left. Like that's very common, and so I think those would be good too.
It's the Newmans. It's just
I know.
The Newmans.
I know they're a different breed.
They're
fine.
just selfish across the board.
That's what I would say Sally's too. And I think that her giving, because love language is not even just receiving, it's giving, is definitely words of affirmation. She loves to tell people how wonderful they are, for sure. And like that's her big thing. And to show them if they can. But I think those are her too.
Yeah.
Jason, what would you say are Billy's?
I mean, that's hard to break that down. I could see him wanting all of those all the time. I think that's kind of the way he rolls a little bit. Like, I think all of those, I think all of those are pretty important to him. I can't really think of one that stands out more. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everybody takes all of them, but I think like the physical affection, the physical touch one, at least for Sally, I think that's been something, like I said, she didn't have that. So I think for her, like, I think it's really important to her, but she doesn't expect it, you know? And so that's what's been interesting about Sally, is watching that. It's been something, as I've played Sally throughout the years, that kind of developed. I was like, oh, this is interesting, like watching her in different relationships, and that was the part of her that took the longest to kind of like feel comfortable with, and it just kind of evolved that way. And so I don't know, I always thought that was interesting. I'm glad that you asked that question.
Do you find Billy and Sally handsy? Like, do you find them?
Yeah, I find her very comfortable with Billy. Yeah, for sure. And I think again that comes from what you know, to reiterate what we were saying before, like we just came from a very vulnerable place, and it was like we were raw to begin with. But I don't think that's normally the case with Sally.
It's good. I've learned more about your character after this interview.
You were so welcome.
Thank you. Her laugh?
Well,
that's they're close. They're not exactly the same.
so
I mean, I don't know, there's a certain quality about, and I can see this with Sally as well, like, you know, she is passionate about her job. She takes it serious, but she's also knows that it's important to have fun in life and enjoy it, and you know, and find the balance, that thing that we all kind of struggle with sometimes, but know that it's important to, you know, to learn from your mistakes in a way. I find, just knowing you personally a little bit, I think that you're always seeking to kind of, you know, better yourself or whatever, and I can see that in Sally as well. I can see that Sally can look back at her past and try and, you know, do better for herself, or maybe even act as, you know, how do you better serve Billy, learning
Yeah.
from your past relationships. I see how
Yeah.
there's similarities there.
Yeah, that's a good quality.
Yeah, I would say it's a great quality.
I agree. I think for Jason, intellect and integrity of truth. I think those two things I mean, so much stands out, but those two for sure. I mean, Jason is a very intelligent guy, and he's very grounded.
I've never heard that before.
You are, and he really loves to dive deep into meaning behind things, and finds the nuance within that, and then also, like I said, the integrity of truth. You know, like I said before, I really respect him a lot. He does what he says he's gonna do. He is who he says he is, and I love that. And I think Billy is that same. You bring that to Billy, and it's very respectable. I mean, I think, you know, everyone's got who they love, and I think, you know, if they love the couple that each of us were with before, they're gonna be, you know, screaming from the rooftops about that, and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to, I can't think of the word. Like, anyway, they weren't going to be happy about this, and I think that that's natural. I mean, that happens in life. It kind of is what it is. It's kind of fun, you know. It's like I love seeing people flip too. That's super fun. Like, they're like super gung ho about one thing, and then you have one episode, and all of a sudden they're like your biggest fan. It's like, it's just entertaining to
It's a
see
split
it.
back and forth. I mean, there's always going to be the Abbott Newman thing with me as an Abbott and Billy and Adam. I mean, that's never really going to change. I mean, it shouldn't change realistically. So much of our characters are based off of that, and everything else. And there's a pedigree there for that, of course, with the Newmans and the Abbotts and Jack and Victor and everything else. And so, yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of that back and forth. You know, if you're an Adam fan and you like these two together, I can 100%, I can, you know, I understand that, because Sally was good for him. So you want that for him. It's very, very natural to want to keep them together, because, you know, ultimately she was good for him, and he could probably use somebody like that in his life. Not that Chelsea's not, or whatever happens with that character, but so I think it's very natural to go back and forth. You know, personally, I would imagine that, yeah, I mean, it's I like having people root for you. It's nice. It's you know, if the fans like it, it always means it does good things. You know, it helps you kind of be committed to it. It helps the writers know that it's working. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. You know, it's not just like okay, cool, they like them or they don't. Like, you know, they lean in, they lean out, all that kind of stuff. And so audience members, surprisingly, they might be surprised about how much kind of control they might have, or something like that. Or maybe they don't have any. I don't know. That's above my head. But from you know, from my standpoint, which is all I can kind of comment on, is that when we go to do the job, we want people to like us together. You know, you want it to work,
especially when
in
you're
whatever
enjoying it,
way.
too.
But you also know that the story's long. You know, it's not just now. I mean, we've been doing this for 50 plus years. So this is an ever evolving story within a larger story line kind of vibe. You know, we could be together for 2 years, and ultimately the biggest payoff might be when we break up down the road, you know, like, so you got to just kind of stay in it and you know, stay committed to it, and at the same time, yeah, root for whoever you want, because that's that's the fun of it all, you know. And let the chips fall where they may. But as far as like the two of us, I mean, you know, I think there's a lot that these characters could do together, or you know, however it goes. But I think there's a lot of passion between the two of them. So I'm personally a big fan of the two of them together.
Yeah, same here. And I think like, yeah, I think that's good to hear. I'm glad. Like, I think, yeah, we can't control what people think of us. And so for me, I've always just approached it with like, I just need to find what I like within the dynamic, and play with that and pursue that. Because I mean, obviously same thing, like, yeah, we want people to, I like when people are rooting for Sally and the pairing that she's with. Obviously I don't, it's not fun.
Every day she comes to set with new like Twitter feeds of just look at all the people that like us, and she just scrolls down.
Yeah, I'm up all night just you know,
looking.
Just looking, and
we got another one. No, I'm just kidding. She doesn't do that.
I do not do that. Very early on, you cannot look at what other people say. But no, I'm glad to know that there are huge fans of Sally and Billy. It makes me very happy.
Silly.
So all I'm gonna say is there's so many that I love, but I grew up watching All My Children, and I loved Ryan and Greenlee. I was like, that was like my first introduction to like soaps, was that show. And I just loved them together. And I know, you know, Cameron now, and he's wonderful. But that for me is just like, I never forget them.
I would say too, I mean, I remember watching Tracy and Luke together at GH, and Tony was always magical, and that pairing was always fun. But you know, I'm gonna kind of go a little bit weird here and say, like, Patrick and Robin, they were one of my favorite couples ever. I was a part of the couple, but I just, what they, you know, it sounds weird to answer that, but I just felt like there was, when I look back on it, now that I've had time to look back on that, I think it was a very special pairing, that like time in their life, what they went through personally, you know, Kimberly being on the show since she was young, the HIV storylines that we got to play, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a very special couple, a special pairing.
Yeah. Well,
who's gonna answer that first? You go for it.
There's so much that comes to mind. You know what? I'm just gonna say I love when somebody has a really kind and genuine and authentic heart. It really means a lot. I feel like sometimes in the world people can put on so much and try and be something that they're not. I really love when somebody is just authentically who they are, you know, with respect and courtesy of people around them. I love that.
Yeah, I would say too. I mean, seeing somebody in a humble situation. I love seeing people or noticing people do amazing things and literally no one in the world knows or sees it happen. It's like, you know, I try to pick it out with my kids very often. Did you see what that woman over there did? You know, it's a very subtle thing, but it's you know, that makes my heart, you know, sing when I see those moments of like the smallest little things in humanity that nobody else kind of sees, or somebody does it for no recognition whatsoever. I love seeing that.
Yeah.